So, you just bought that new gaming PC with those RGB fans in the front and you want to show it off, but you don't really know how you want to mount it on your desk. I'm here to show you how to do that today. What's up everybody, I'm the Derek Frank, and today I'm going to show you how to really easily rack mount your PC tower. Chances are, if you're here on this channel, you've already seen my touchscreen video and my desk build, or you've seen my stuff on social media with my desk setup, and you've asked me the question, how did you mount your computer into the rack like that? Now I know a lot of gamers necessarily don't care about rack mount stuff, but musicians definitely do. But gamers, this is something that you can utilize to give you a lot more options on better desks out there. Recording desks are really cool because they have rack spaces to mount things like power conditioners, preamps, all that different stuff. But everybody asked me, how did I mount the PC? Well, this is a really quick, easy tutorial and it's super cheap. Now, part of this tutorial, you're gonna have to use a little bit of your own ingenuity because every tower is a little bit different, but here's how I did mine. First, I started off with a standard rack mount shelf. These are usually used in things like server racks. This works really well because if your rack is mounted just straight up and down, you don't have to do very much as far as securing the tower to it. Now, I still recommend doing that in case you pull cables because the last thing you want to do is pull your tower off of the rack. But with my system, I've got a slanted rack system, so I really needed to make sure that that was securely put in there. So the first thing I did was make sure that my tower would actually fit into the dimensions. Rack space is usually about 19 inches wide. Now there are towers out there that are a little bit too big for that, and if that's the case, you're not going to be able to rack mount it. But most towers out there now are going to be able to do this. The nice thing is, if you have a tower that's too big and your heart is set on rack mounting it, towers are pretty inexpensive, like under $100 a lot of times, so you can always change them out. So I got this rack shelf on Amazon for about $40. It's the perfect size, it works really well, and it gives me a lot of options to mount the tower because there's extra holes cut in the sides and the bottom of it. After you measure to make sure your tower is going to fit, the next thing you want to do is actually set it on the shelf. When you do this, make sure you do it on a secure location like a table or on the floor. The next thing you want to do is check to see if you have any ports or fans that are being blocked by the metal on the rack shelf. If you do have things blocked, one, it's going to mess up the airflow, your computer's going to get a lot hotter, which is a really bad thing. The other problem is if you're blocking your USB ports, you're missing out on extra space that you could be using for different devices. Once you've figured out what spots may be blocking, take a Sharpie and mark them out. Next, we're going to cut them. Now, this can be a little bit scary, but don't be afraid, there's a few very easy ways to do this. You can get some metal tin snips at places like Lowe's and Home Depot, and they're pretty inexpensive, or you can use a metal cutting bit for a jigsaw like this one. Metal bits are really inexpensive, so if you have a jigsaw already and don't have them, they're easy to find and they're really easy to use, and they cut through that metal like butter.
Butter, like butter, and those legs and those sparkling stockings. Again, butter.
Butter.
Next, start cutting. Make sure when you're cutting, you're using eye protection and all of that fun stuff, but also make sure you're not cutting so far that the structural integrity of the rack shelf is compromised. Once you've done that and you've smoothed the edges so you don't have anything sharp that you can possibly cut yourself on, you're gonna wanna look at securing the tower to the shelf. When I do this, I use zip ties and I try to connect it through existing holes on the shelf and existing holes on the tower. You're going to have to use your imagination with this one as well because every shelf and every tower is a little bit different, so they're not going to fit the same. Once you have that secure and you know it's not going to slide anywhere,
I'm not going anywhere.
now you can get ready to fit it into your rack space. This is pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you have enough room, and it's always a good idea to enlist the help of someone else because you're holding up a really expensive tower. And the last thing you want to do is drop it or let it slide and then you break your stuff. The final step is just put in your rack screws and make sure that thing is secure. One extra little piece that I added that made it a lot easier on me was adding a separate power button. My power button was on the side of my tower, which most are, and it was pretty much blocked because of the rack. So I was having to like kind of do these weird like reaching in things to turn the computer on, and it wasn't very convenient. But instead, I got this little button on Amazon for like 15 bucks, and it looks really cool because it's a mechanical key, just like on a mechanical keyboard, and it's got the RGB. And if you're here watching this, you know I love RGB. You probably love RGB because that's why you want to show off your tower. Otherwise, you just throw it under the desk because no one would care. Every one of these switches comes with steps, but it's super simple. You only have to plug in like 4 wires. It's really easy to do. And if you have a problem, you can go on YouTube and find tutorial videos. Once I got that hooked up, I mounted it to the top of my desk. So now all I have to do is just smack it when I come down here, turn the whole computer on. One other aspect that I did that was really cool was that I added a switch bot so that I could turn on my computer remotely from anywhere. Whether I'm in the house and use my Google Home, or whether I'm out on a job and I need to access my computer and then remote access it, I can make sure my computer turns on just by using the switch bot. That'll be another video. So if you guys have any questions, make sure, like always, leave them in the chat section below. If you want to buy this rack mount, I've got links below, and also if you want to buy that power button, I've got links below that also help out the channel when you purchase from my Amazon affiliate links. As always, thank you guys so much, and have a good one.